it's Dominga. So I'm just recently getting back from Mexico and it was a blast. I absolutely loved it. It was so long that I even forgot what day it was while I was there, which is like the epitome of my dream come true. And while I was there, I actually filmed this video, which is a what I've learned in my life kind of video. I've seen many people do like 27 things in 27 years. I'm not going to do that many because I simply feel like I want to give you value instead of quantity. So I'm going to give you probably 10. But nonetheless, while I was in Mexico, I shot this video and I thought it was stunning, but can't use it. So we're going to run it back. I think it's important to just hop right in. There's no need for me to give you a 200,000 year long intro. So number one is jealousy. We have to work on the jealousy. And it's not something that I've learned in my life because I'm particularly a jealous person. And I have a story to sort of share. It's a little bit vulnerable, but I never understood why people growing up were jealous of other people. And I felt like it was something that kind of alienated me because there was always so much like talk and petty kind of comparison and judgment that would happen when I was in high school and in college and things like that. And I just simply did not resonate with it. There was a part of me that was kind of proud. I was like, I don't understand why everyone's so mean. And then eventually, like, life happened and I officially understood. So my parents got a divorce a few years ago, and I had a friend who had her parents come to town and visit her, and she was like crying to me about how she was crying when they left. And we live very, very far from our families, so I understood the sentiment of missing your parents. Like I logically get that. I remember thinking, well, and it was like kind of like a knee-jerk response. Like, and I didn't say this out loud, but I remember thinking, at least you have something to miss. Like, you don't quite understand how bad it could be. And it all happened so quickly. Like, I felt like it put in perspective about 15 years of my life all in that moment, because I was like, oh, well, now I can't pride myself in, I don't resonate with jealousy. I don't understand what it feels like, because I realize now there's this lesson that I have to learn. There's this work that I have to do. And it really humanized me. It spoke to me so deeply because I understood the reason. People are only jealous because they don't have what you have. That's simply it. So I did the work to kind of talk through, she should be able to miss and mourn her family even though you don't have what she has right now. It doesn't devalue your life that she's happy. And if it does, that is the definition of misery. I think the way that you work on jealousy is simply when you like talk yourself through it. Because if you decide that you're just going to be negative and angry, and she has better hair than me and it grows longer and she's taller and she's skinnier, it's like all of this wanting what you do not have and not being grateful for what you were blessed with is simply going to lead you through a very, very dark life. And really, you get to decide. I mean, the only person who suffers, I can't say the only person who suffers, because oftentimes when you're a negative person, it kind of bleeds onto everyone around. But the person who's going to, suffer the most is you if you don't address it. So it's almost like you may as well do the work. You may as well do the confronting so that you can live a life that you're comfortable with. All right, number two. So this is kind of verbiage that I've heard on the internet before, but something that I've done long before it was a trend, really I've done throughout my life. You absolutely have to romanticize your life. And it feels a little bit corny, like, I'm not on a TV show and like, who am I acting for? But the truth of it is like romanticizing your life and getting creative, finding unique ways to do that, it makes your life more fun. And why would you not want to live a fun life? So for example, I have a very extensive night routine, and it's really not because I need to do all of these steps to even get drowsy or fall asleep. It's simply because it makes me feel girly and it makes me feel like I have something to look forward to throughout the day. I'll come in after a long day of work, make sure that all of the overhead lights are off, turn on all of the lamps, light a candle, make sure that the mood in my house doesn't feel abrasive, and then I will cut my record on. Now I only have like or my record player rather. I only have like 2 records, so I'm like kind of switching between the two. But it just makes me feel like I have like a fun way to introduce music into my home, even though I could simply use my phone. Like, this is the point, is that you're going an extra step to make life feel special. And then I'll run a bath, and instead of just running a bath and bathing with the light on, I'm gonna run a bath and bathe with a candle and just make everything so girly. I might add some rose petals. My point here is, if you take the time to make yourself feel like life is worth living, guess what? Life is gonna feel worth living. Number 3, so this one might be controversial, but I don't make my finances feel like this big dark cloud over my head where I have to figure it out and I have to control it, or I'm gonna be poor forever, and then I'm never gonna get the things I want and can't provide for my children, and then I won't be able to buy a house. Like, I feel like money is one of people's biggest stressors. And we know this because, like, money literally rules the world. I try to just buy myself the things that I want. I definitely buy myself the things that I need. Check the bank account, not every single day, sometimes not every single week. And I recognize that, like, it's different for different people, and it's also based upon whatever you're going through in your life in particular in this moment. But adding layers of stress onto life when it's already stressful is just counterproductive. So buy yourself some of the things that you want. Buy yourself the things that you need. Find a way to make that happen to the best of your ability, and stop acting like if you cannot purchase everything in the world, you're absolutely worth nothing. And then stop acting like you can't buy anything because you have to be so frugal. Like, relax. There's so much beauty in, I'm thinking of the Arabic word for it, but balance. There's so much beauty in the balance, in the middle. And that's where I like to live my life. Now, it can get out of hand real quick, so make sure that you don't, within reason. Number 3, show people how you love them. I think there's nothing more enriching than showing people instead of telling people how much they mean to you. And so, an example, actually, I want to tell a quick story. When I was in high school, there was this girl named Becca, and she was always so sweet, so nice. Never heard her say a bad thing about a soul, which was like amazing, especially for the time and at that point in everyone's development. Like, this girl was a saint. And one year it was my birthday. She brought me homemade cookies. I almost said hand baked. She brought me homemade cookies, and I thought it was so intentional. It like never left me. I'm talking, this might have been at this point, I don't know, like 10 years ago. Yes, 10 years ago. And now, anytime there's somebody in my life who's like, I don't know, having a birthday or a baby shower or whatever the case, in addition to their gift, I will make them something homemade, because it makes, at least I think, it would make them feel like, oh, she took like extra time to do this. Like, she was being incredibly intentional by slowing down her life, making me something to eat. And then, especially like if you're going to package it in something cute, like, you can't go wrong with that. And I'm specifically talking about what you can give to people, because gift giving is my love language, but that doesn't mean it has to be yours. Like, say it's spending intentional time or going out of your way to give verbal compliments. Like, figure out what it is for you that's fulfilling. And also remember that it's important to love people in the way that they want to be loved. So Becca giving me a gift spoke to me, because that's how I show love. I give people gifts, and it just registered perfectly. But if you know somebody has a love language that is rooted in acts of service, maybe do something for them. And it shows that you love people and that you're paying attention to what actually makes them tick and what they actually want, in the ways that they actually want to be loved. All right, 4, I think, is the hardest one, and I'm not perfect at this, and I don't really know that anyone is, because this is kind of the point of life. But make sure to walk away from situations that are not serving you. It is so easy to stay in a situation that just feels routine and it feels like home because it's all you've ever known, and you don't really want to, or you might not have the energy to shift and change all of the time. Like, I understand life can feel like an uphill battle, but it's so incredibly important that you invest in yourself. And the best way to do that is to make sure that you are not around low vibrational situations or people. No matter how hard it is, no matter the relation, you have to cut out things that are making you sick. The way that it feels to mourn the people that you have to let go is less difficult than keeping it or keeping them. Detox. what does not work, especially when you know what doesn't work. Like, you don't even have a question about whether or not this serves you, and you don't even need more time to try and decipher whether or not this is right. You're just keeping it around because you're like, hey, like, I don't feel like doing the work. Please take the trash out. Like, please do it. And I don't know what that is for you. It could be an addiction. Like, I feel like everybody's vaping. No offense to everyone, because I know like everyone is vaping. It could be simply like a bad relationship with yourself. Like, you never wake up to your alarms and you snooze every single time, which also I have a life hack for. You can set alarms like across your house. Like, I have like 4 alarms every day. I have a personal phone and a work phone. Personal phone stays in my bedroom, work phone across the house. I'm about to get a hatch, and then I have a like another alarm that's just like the way that you traditionally imagine one that you buy at the store. And I will set as many as I have to and keep getting up out of bed to turn them off. So if you have an issue with waking up and being on time, like, find a way to hack it. Like, push yourself to find a fix. Take out of your life whatever does not work and whatever is not serving you. And I know that it can feel abrasive and scary, but it's work you have to do. And I don't know, like, that's just how life is. Number 5 is find a way to underconsume. Always like a little bit of an oxymoron when YouTubers and people on TikTok say this, because it's like, well, you don't want to put yourself out of business. But granted, I mean, I don't think that'll ever happen. We all know that like social media has become a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Like, I don't think it's going to cease to exist because people need to take a break from it. But you really have to ask yourself if you're the kind of person who doom scrolls. I personally have a good mechanism of being like, okay, you've got 5 more like little scrolls, no matter how long they end up being, no matter how short they end up being, you've got 5 scrolls and you have to get in the shower and get ready for this, that, or the third. So thankfully, like, I have that in my brain, like that strength to kind of push through anyway. But there are people who genuinely can't seem to stop, and you have to ask yourself if that's an addiction for you. Whereas TikTok is not my issue. I find myself really just getting interested. Like, I'll put on a podcast that's an hour, and then after that I'll watch some TikTok, and then after that, because I work for the media, like, I'll work an 8-hour shift, sometimes 9, sometimes 10. Then I'll come home and I will be like, well, I could read a book, or I could just watch more TikTok. Then after that, I will want to turn on some TV. It's like, it's not about the social media. It's about the fact that I haven't had a thought that my own brain came up with all day long. And I don't think that's the way that we were intended to be. Like, I really genuinely do think, how are you ever going to make new ideas or start thinking about your beliefs or form any opinions if all you're ever doing is taking in what everybody else is saying? Like, you don't even have any time to process. So number 5 is find a way to learn how to underconsume social media and media in general. And if it's like not a problem for you, then like maybe it doesn't need to be something that you have a huge focus on. But I know for a lot of people, it like really can rule their life. And so just, put that in perspective. Number 6 is kind of linked to number 1. This is about gossiping. Okay. So we've got to stop it. And you really need to ask yourself why you feel so fueled, maybe is a good word, fueled to talk about other people's lives. Whether it be good or bad, I mean, just where is this level of interest coming from in everyone and everything besides what you have going on? Oh, wait, spoiler. It might be because you simply don't have enough going on. Maybe you're bored. To put it simply, maybe there's some room for you to get some hobbies, for you to do some things you're proud of, so that you don't feel like all that there is on earth to talk about is other people. Oh, she did this. Oh, she did that. She wore this. She went here. She started a new job. She quit her job. She got fired from her job. Do you think she got quit? Please. You have to ask yourself if this applies to you. Why are you more interested in other people's lives than creating one of your own that you enjoy, that you wake up every single day absolutely elated to live? If at all you have an ego, you do recognize the people that you're talking to know, even if it's just a little bit subconsciously, they know that that's to the same level of scrutiny that you might hold them and yourself. It's a recipe for disaster. You look like you don't like yourself. If you don't want people to think that, or rather know that, find something of better value to talk about and do. Okay. That was harsh. Sorry. I remember when I was in middle school, everybody would wear what, I think there's another word for it, but I would call them potato shoes. You know, the ones that are kind of like shaped like this, like an oval. And then it's like brown, kind of reminds you of like a burlap sack. And then the girls would wear like mismatched neon socks with them. It was not a look, but like we loved it. This is an example of just the way that kids are, the way that people can tend to be. It's like, oh, well, they have it and they have it, so I might as well get it too. Like, that's going to make me really cool. And I've heard a lot of people on TikTok and socials talk about kids getting bullied at school because they don't have a Stanley, or their mom will send them to school with a different water bottle and then kids will call them poor. Like, it's really, really, really ridiculous. Like, we have to find our own identity and then be sure about walking in it. We have no bigger privilege than to wake up and be exactly who we decide to be. And that doesn't mean that you can't have a Stanley, because I quite literally do and love them. But that doesn't mean that like you have to treat other people any less or treat anybody any better if they're able to participate in these things, if they do or they don't. But just make sure that you are aligned with the things you're participating in and the things that you're wearing and the things that you hold, like a Stanley or a purse or the car that you drive. Like, if you're going to participate in the trend, let it be one that you actually feel you can embody genuinely. I just feel like that's a better way to live than pretend that you like something that's going to change in 5 minutes anyway. Number 8, this one's kind of special to me, and I don't think I've ever told anyone about this, but the very first thing that I think when I wake up in the morning, and I think this first because I have made it a habit, I say, okay, 5 things you're grateful for. Like, the second that my brain is conscious and no longer kind of in that weird in between sleep and awake state, like, immediately think 5 things you're grateful for. And I just list them off. And I also try to do something different than I did the day before. Like, in the beginning of doing this, I really struggled with being like, oh, I'm thankful for my house and like my car and my job. Like, get creative. Like, try to think of 5 new things every day. I promise you, you have 5 things. And even if like life is not looking the way that you want it to look right now, you probably do still have 5 things that you would be devastated to lose. So call them out. And I think when you kind of frame your brain and you condition your brain to seeing the glass half full, life does feel glass half full. And the sooner you start thinking about all of the things you don't have, the more things you feel like you don't have. Like, our brains just kind of work like that. They kind of just, whatever you think just grows. It's an interesting kind of concept. All right, number 9. Don't idolize people. I was talking to somebody I'm really close to about this the other day, just about what it feels like to be anxious and to have an ego, especially if you're in, say, like a job field or maybe on a sports team or whatever the case, where there's some like level of scrutiny, where you might have a boss or you might have a coach or an audience around you that's going to be critical of what you bring to the table. Now, I understand it's important to work hard and perform well. If you're on that sports team, you want to be able to pull through for your sports team. And if you're in a work setting, you want your numbers to reflect the kind of work that you do. But you also have to have a very good perspective with the fact that the validation that you'll get from the people around you, it should not be your driver. You need to have your own reason for the things that you do, because when you start giving people the power to build you, they have the equal and opposite power to break you. And that's kind of how people are. Number 10 might be my favorite one, but be yourself boldly. And I know it might sound kind of corny and a little bit cliche, but it's important. I mean, you have to show up as yourself and you have to be proud of it and you have to fight, because people sometimes, they really do like want to knock you down and they don't appreciate what you bring to the table. That's why you have to like it and you have to support it in such a way that people kind of just move on, find the next thing to bully, find the next thing to disapprove of, because I'm standing firm in who I am and what I bring to the table. Okay, so quick example. When I was a child, I had a friend and their parent was friends with my parents. And so we were always around each other growing up, and that parent would always say to me, oh, Dominga, you're such a fancy pants. Oh, there she goes again, fancy pants. And the dynamic was really, my father would take me shopping as a kid. And it's interesting how sometimes people don't know what you have to not have to have what you do have. But my father was not able to be there every single day because he traveled for work. So I very often couldn't see him. But when I could see him, he wanted to make it very special for me. So if you remember back in the day, before justice was justice, it was limited 2. And I was that girl. I was that girl in the limited 2. So my poor dad would come on down and spend hundreds of dollars in the store. I don't know what made him feel like that was reasonable, but I would get pretty much everything my heart desired. And I won't say that it was like a direct transaction. Like, it wasn't like he was doing that because he was gone. It was like he was doing that because I needed school clothes. But it was a really special like way to bond that we had. Whereas other kids might have been able to like hang out with their dad literally every day. So my point here is that I think this person felt insecure that she was not able to do the same for her kids. And so she had to make me feel like, oh, well, you shouldn't be dressing like that. Now, please tell me how eventually she got a raise, and guess who was soon in limited too? My friend. Okay. So I'm so blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to become the person that I'm working toward, and all of the things that I've learned in my life that have got me to this point. I truly would not change a single thing because I really do believe in divinity, and I think everything that is for you is going to happen, and things that are not for you are simply going to pass you, and that's just the way that I believe life works. But it really is true. You have to boldly be yourself, and you cannot give that card and that permission away to other people to tell you who you are, because they'll tell you what you don't want to hear, and then you're going to have to embody that. And I simply can't, like, I cannot fathom being given this gift of life, being given the opportunity to be alive on this planet, and to give away the power and the permission to other people to shape you and to tell you who you are. So with that being said, these are 10 things that I've learned in my 27 years. I absolutely love you. Thank you so much for being here on my channel, whether it be your first time or whether you be a returner. Remember, you are made on purpose and with so much intention, and I'll see you next week. Bye.